Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Goldwater Rule and happy Boxing Day, I guess. Um, in line with what we've been doing lately, I was just going to check out some reading Reddit stories. People seem to be really kind of annoyed at their Christmas interactions. So we'll see what we find there. There seems to be an ongoing theme in the thread. So I'm hoping you're liking the Reddit stories. So we'll check out, see what's going on there. I tend to follow as part of my my list of followers on or the subscriptions on Reddit. I follow the sociopaths, the narcissistic spouses, toxic relationships, personality disorders, things like that. So anything involving that kind of stuff, tend to get a lot of interesting kind of stories going on there, and a lot of things to comment on, see what's going on. This time of year, people are really having I guess a lot of interesting encounters and experiences with families and friends. It never ends really, but today, in the last few days, in the lead up to Christmas, people tend to they're more excitable. They are definitely taking things more seriously. A lot of serious things happen around Christmas and New Year's. Actually, it's a highly emotional time for a lot of people, and so you have people that. It could be tremendously joyful experience going through the holidays, but whenever you bring people together in a situation, then it can be kind of upsetting because all the things that follow people follow them into those interactions. So, maybe you live your life all quiet, like and introspective, and just keep to yourself at your house. But then all of a sudden, there's Christmas and New Year's, and you're around groups of people. And so, what happens when you're around groups of people? Well, you know that probably one out of every six or seven people actually have some kind of personality disorder, and that's at a clinical level. So you're dealing with a lot of dysfunction and a lot of the bullshit that happens over the holidays. So people can be pretty messed up, generally speaking, but it seems to be more concentrated when you get into the holidays and you're around the groups of people. So, like I said, you're living, working, breathing mostly by yourself and with a little close knit set of people. Then all of a sudden you find yourself in a group, and all of these feelings and emotions and behaviors and characteristics all of a sudden come front and center because now you can see this. You're in a group, and so you're in your own little clinical practice, if you want to think of it like that. And so you get to see a lot of the weird things that go on. So this is no different than any other time for a lot of us. A lot of people are always thinking about stuff like this. We're very hyper aware of our interactions and some of the dysfunction that we see on a daily basis. So Christmas and New Year's just tends to highlight that a little bit more, I think, for a lot of people. And so it's coming out in a lot of the posts that we're seeing now on Reddit, right? People are happy or bothered for any number of reasons based on some bits of dysfunction they see on their in their families, and not everyone has an opportunity to question those things with some people that are around them. So people can be confused. They deal with some dysfunction or they see it, and they want to find out. Am I the asshole here in this situation because I responded this way, or this is what I'm observing around me? And so sometimes you're the asshole, and sometimes you're a victim of someone else's assholery, if you will. And so that's pretty much what happens. So people are just asking themselves, at least they're double checking with their own selves about what's going on. And it's cool to have that inner voice, at least, right? You have to have that conversation with yourselves. A lot of people live their lives and they just go like a train wreck or like a steamroller into every scenario and encounter. But some people stop and say, hey, is this okay? Is this right? Is this normal? Is this abnormal? And so, if you don't have the people to chat to about that, then you take to Reddit and ask some questions. So, that being said, I hope everyone's having a great Christmas. Happy holiday season. Today is Boxing Day. Some people do activities on Boxing Day. Some people just chill out. I know a lot of people seem to be out shopping and taking care of taking advantage of a lot of those deals that are out there. But again, it's the afternoon now. Day's half over already, and people likely come back home and engage in some of that leftover turkey eating, stuffing, gravy, take two, I guess you can call it, and overindulge again in some of the treats that are available. And again, those are just opportunities again to bring you together with some of the people that may cause you some conflict or may cause you to think about what's going on. But hopefully, you're living in a well-adjusted family and or have some well-adjusted friends, and you're able to have a otherwise happy experience. So here we are right now, And looking at a Reddit, this is the narcissistic spouses subreddit, and this just popped up on my feed. So someone's asking, "My wife might be a narcissist. What should I do?" Hi everyone. This is a first-time poster. My wife and I are in our 30s. My wife is a bit self-focused. She has difficulties in prioritizing anything that isn't for her personal growth, and I sometimes find her idea of success is a bit shallow and materialistic. She sometimes bends the truth slightly to make herself or me look better than what's actually true. For example, how we met, what her job title is, how much money we have, etc. She builds up a bit of a facade, which I just think puts a bit of extra pressure on her and myself to try and achieve this perfect life. Even though we are married, she often talks about her plans and what she wants to achieve. It's difficult to make shared plans with her or change her mindset into an us kind of mindset. Her plans are also a bit all over the place. And since she basically thinks that she already deserved to have all of her goals achieved, then real life sometimes seems to be a disappointment to her. Instead of being happy, of being able to work towards where she wants to be, wants to have, the general impression is that she's unhappy, that she didn't already have it long ago. Sometimes I feel she picks up all the achievements from the influencers she follows and the friends she has, and then thinks that her life should include all of those achievements. I've tried talking to her about this, but one very reoccurring thing in our relationship is that it's difficult to reach her. I rarely feel like we can discuss something and that she actually fully takes in the discussion and that our conversation makes any change in her. After each discussion, it feels like zero progress has been made and we're exactly where we were before the discussion started. I've never had this experience with any of my past partners. This is especially difficult when we have disagreements. If we have a fight, someone is sad, relationship problem, etc., we can have a talk about it, but afterwards, nothing actually changes. In my past relationships, opening up our hearts, sharing our feelings, or even having a slight argument, in the end, took us closer to each other and caused one or both of us to implement some kind of change to in the future to show the other person that we have heard them and understood them. So with my wife, this is completely lacking. Nothing gets better after a disagreement, and the relationship sometimes feels like a broken record on repeat. Her biggest character flaw is that she is completely unable to admit any fault. She's almost physically unable to emit the words, "I'm sorry." I have tried to stand strong and stay in the emotional chicken race until she shows some remorse, but it seems like it is physically painful for her to admit any wrongdoing. In the past, my partners would be very receptive if I voiced concerns or shared my feelings. With my wife, it's almost like I'm inconveniencing her by voicing my feelings. Sometimes it's almost like I'm the bad person, and simply voicing my opinion is like an act of violence against her. If I share that I'm unhappy about something, she will quickly turn into the victim. And just the thought of having to console me sometimes seems to bring physical pain and tears to her eyes. She will try to explain herself out of the situation and telling me why I'm wrong, and never reach the point in showing any interest in consoling me or trying to understand my feelings. With the past partners, we would focus on the feelings and the understanding first, and then try to reach an agreement about what actually happened and how to avoid it. With my wife, it's just explanations and nothing ever actually changes. Sometimes she will resort to calling me weak and that I should be more manly. She expects lavish celebrations for all occasions, big and small, but rarely listens to what I wish for. When she does give me something, it's on the wrong day in a plastic bag that she just hands over. I try to plan surprises, packing the careful gifts carefully, trying to think about her needs and her wishes, and go the extra mile. While I'm a natural giver, I think it's my love language towards others. She has accused me of being selfish person and not taking care of her enough. It's almost an absurd allegation. I've always spoiled my partners to an almost silly extent, especially her, and love to make an effort to make sure they have everything they need. I'm actually sort of expecting my partner to praise me and brag about me to others for spoiling them. Again, this has been the case with my earlier partners. My wife, though, is the only partner that said that I'm selfish and that I don't do enough for my significant other. Either she actually convinced herself of it, or she just said it's because she knew I would find it hurtful. Either way, her actions concerned me. So for me, I love to do things together or to help my partner achieve their goals. Do they want to get fit? Right. I discuss it with them and help them make an exercise routine, healthy breakfast, buy new matching gym clothes for us to go together. I'm really motivated by sharing goals with my partner. The downside is that I'm not good at just making things for myself. Think, for example, dinner is super fun to cook for my spouse, but so boring if I'm just cooking for myself. And I've expressed that to my partner and told her that it would be so helpful for me if she could do some of the goals with me in any capacity, just to ask me about it, remind me sometimes, or get involved. But she's completely absent. I feel she only has interest in her own goals. But I volunteer to help her, but receive no praise, and instead get blamed for not doing enough for her. And she thinks that I should be able to manage my own goals by myself without having to interact. She sort of wants me to do the hard work, and once I get the success, then I should share it with her while also supporting her plans. I would love if we could just do it together. Now, sometimes she shows signs of misremembering events, playful interaction. A long time later, turned into me being the aggressor and threatening her. For example, she was thinking running around tickling each other, but now she says that she chased her and hurt her. That's restating the things. Massive crocodile tears following. It really concerned me that she would go through such mental gymnastics to bend the truth in her favor. But she only went that far once, and I simply told her that wasn't what happened at all. But around that same time, she also had a discussion with family member of mine, and basically said that I have short fuse and can get angry easily. Again, my problem is the exact opposite. I never get angry, even though it could actually be helpful for me to maybe be angry in some situations. I think she just tried this coping strategy at that one time period, because I haven't heard it again before or after. I do think it was pretty obvious that no one believed her, so she stopped using that strategy as her deflection free card, or whatever you call it. It's, however, very concerning that she even went so far as to make herself the victim. It's a deal breaker if it ever happens again. One issue in the relationship is that she never takes up any issue with me. And then until I'm trying to discuss something, that is, until I'm actually trying to discuss something with her. And then she brings up the full arsenal of things I've done to her. I always tell her that I support her to bring any issues to me. I'm a good listener and always want her well, but it's not the time to bring up her problems whenever I try to speak with her about something that's important to me. I feel like she is trying to hijack every important interaction to make it about her. She makes promises she doesn't keep, especially when that's about something that is important to me but not important for her. Again, he says he's the giver. And so, why am I with my wife? He says, well, I love her. We still have good times. We have some shared hobbies that we can do together. We have good time in our daily life, cooking and watching TV, whatever. She's doing all right in her career, and I like that she can be independent sometimes, but she also scores very high on the hotness curve. So a bit crazy is to be expected, question mark. He goes on to say, when we first met, life was going well. So he wants to know, really, is this a narcissist that I'm dealing with? How can I connect with or reach her on her terms? Can I think of her as if her brain and personality is functioning differently than the norm, and that I need to approach situations differently? I know the irony in this is that I'm asking these questions that she seems unable to ask herself. And I guess that will just have to be a never ending issue. But let's say that I want us to stay married and to find something that works for us. How can I get her to engage in this discussion? How can I reach her? I already suspect that all of you will tell me that I can't, but I'm not sure. Maybe there's hope, or maybe she isn't even narcissistic and there's a different issue at play. So, an interesting post here, just made earlier today. And I think, if you've gone down that route, I mean, the person's given it some thought already about whether or not the spouse is narcissistic. So he must have be aware of the qualities that makes someone narcissistic, or a narcissist. And so, you know, I think a lot of the things that this person said show that the person likely is narcissistic. There is, a focus on the self instead of others. That's definitely something. Trying to achieve the perfect life. That is, a sense. There's a grandiose sense of things, right? Sometimes people who are narcissistic, they will have dreams of, grandness. They're thinking about things that are, they're weighing themselves about the most extreme, extreme beauty, extreme richness, extreme success. And so they're always, talking about that. And they will, you know, they're actually jealous of other people, but they think other people are jealous of them. And so that happens a lot. But they're always wanting the best, or speaking in terms of the best and um, the richest. I have the best job. I do this for a living. And I think in your example here, you talked about the fact that she does stretch the truth in some conversations. So She's actually, just changes slightly about the money. She increase. Like she says that you guys make a bit more than you do sometimes in conversation. She'll change the job title, I think, is what was said here, and so this is a kind of bragging essentially. And let me see if I could find it here. Yeah, so you're talking about, the fact that she picks all the achievements from influencers, right? So that sounds like somebody who's looking out at the world and seeing all of the awesomeness, and because she thinks it's awesome, and then also saying that using that as the benchmark. That is the benchmark for what she thinks is, they should be doing. Because, we're living in this world where everyone is, they're streaming or they're on social media and they come across as wealthy, beautiful, or they've got it all going on. And there's really this it's an opportunity for a lot of people to covet what's going on in those situations. So you see those what appears to be a glamorous kind of life, and you compare it to your own life. So your life's not normally that glamorous on a regular basis, right? You don't A lot of people are showing the bling online. They come across as being wealthy, or maybe they traveling, or they come across as being super successful. So that's kind of the image, I guess. Sometimes if you were a narcissist, you'd want to portray that kind of thing, and it'd be very important for you to do that. And if you're a narcissist, there is no we. Like it's just the narcissist is the grand I, right? It's a grand individual, and so they need to be. They're focused on themselves more than anything else in a lot of the facets. So I would say that as a spouse, they might certainly leave you lacking in a lot of different ways and a lot of different situations. And so your needs could absolutely be unfulfilled because there's just the typical the image of the narcissist, right, looking into the reflection in the lake or in a mirror or something like that, where they see themselves, right? That's what they're seeing. It's just themselves. Well, that is reflected ultimately in terms of how they live their lives. Your If there's something that you have that she could brag about to others, then she would use that. Absolutely. And so, but to the extent of advancing oneself, I mean, you're kind of on your own. I would say you're probably just you're by the way the poster sounds like it's their, everything they do is for us, and but everything she does is for her, and that sounds kind of like a little bit narcissistic and a little bit self-centered at the very least. There's not a lot of it doesn't seem like there's a lot of arguing going on at this point. And But you know, the person said that they're actually in their 30s. So um, I think what ends up happening is that when you start to a little longer, I mean, starting to feel the problems right now in terms of the treatment, right? So there's disparate treatment, right? The way he treats her is not the same way as she treats him. And so there might come a point where, he's made all of the dinners and he's asked all the questions. He's tried to move forward. When they argue, he's the one that apologizes, and she might not have the insight that he's looking for to be happy in a relationship. I think it's very healthy when people, they have a discussion. Maybe it's a argument, if you want to call it that, but you're both trying to be reasonable, hopefully, during the conversation, and then at the end of it, there's a growth that takes place. So you've grown in terms of your understanding of your partner, and your expectations of each other are like restated. So you're both on the same ground in terms of what's happening. And so the idea is that you've gone through this experience together. You've reestablished what is normal and your expectation. And then moving forward, you take that and you integrate it into who you are as a person. And then you move forward. And so you're stronger the next day. And so you minimize the likelihood that those arguments are going to happen in the future. And when the situation does arise again, you've both been through it before. So you both know what the expectation is. And then you're both hopefully come out of it like left scathed, and you know what's going on, you know the deal. And so, hey, if you keep doing this on repeat all the time, then maybe you're better people for having had the conversation. But when you're dealing with someone who doesn't have that kind of insight, it's almost like it's just words. So imagine having a conversation and you kind of think you're dealing with just a person who has the same kind of insight you have. Like you're both going through the motions of having the conversation. You're both having a conversation, and you think you're making progress. You're talking about what just happened, and we say, well, I next time I think I'd like this. These are what I. This is the way I think we should move forward on it, and I would appreciate this. And I understand where you're coming from, and so I'll try to behave this way. If you leave the conversation and then you don't see that growth happen, then what was that conversation? Was the person you were talking to, did they actually have the insight, or were they just like, was it kind of, is it an act? They're just not on the same page, like superficially on the same page, but not actually having the insight that is needed to move on? Because I think what happens is they survive. It's possible that the narcissist can survive the conversation, and then the movie's over, so to speak. You turn the television off of the interaction, and then the TV comes back on again in a new interaction, and so though the original conversation never even took place. And this could be the case if the person is just living their own movie, so to speak, and they're their own, you know, the hero of their own movie, and so they're not saying, "What would you think? What would I do for him? What should I do to make sure he's okay?" They're not saying, "Am I hurting this person? Am I making a mistake? Am I, what did we talk about last time? I'm super aware of the likes and dislikes. I'm going to try to be better." So, if you have the conversation, you would expect a person to behave that way, and it looks like in this person's situation, he's not getting that out of the thing. Now, what's interesting is, I mean, the person's already in their 30s, and they've devoted a lot of time to this person, and I think that it's a harsh reality that we're all born and we know what we know, and you try to find a partner, and then when you find the partner, you're still just learning the partner. Even in the first few years of your relationship, you're still actually learning about the partner. You don't know everything about who this person actually is. So for the most part, they kind of seem like acceptable for the most part. But there's all kind. You only still know a small percentage of who that person is, and so maybe you have a sufficient amount of information, and you decide to stay together long term, and you get married. But you're you still have a long way to go in terms of how intimate you are, and how much insight you actually have in the other person. So you continue to learn throughout your relationship. And so what's unfortunate though is while you're learning about the other person, you're actually burning through time of your life. And so you might find yourself, it's not uncommon for people to find themselves after a decade or two, because they didn't even ask the questions when they first started the relationship, but they find themselves after being together with someone, they wake up one day and they're like, they do the math on the situation, and they're like, holy shit, I just spent the last decade doing all of these things, and it just hit me now. I've been waiting for some kind of reciprocation. I've been waiting for some kind of insight from this person. And maybe you do a Google search or something like that, and you're like, holy shit, what just happened here? And so this person, like, they're already posting in the narcissistic spouses subreddit. They must have an idea of some of the qualities that make the person narcissistic. And so that could be a deal breaker. I think if this person was a bona fide narcissistic personality disorder, this person would be a lot angrier, and there would be more extreme examples that would actually be on display, because the person would be suffering a lot more, and they might not know. They might not know exactly how to. They may not know exactly what the cause is, uh, per se, but there would definitely be some extreme examples. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, when you're with someone who's narcissistic, I mean, you start to first you acquiesce, then you start to ask questions, and then you start to have resentment, and then I think you almost get like a post traumatic stress disorder with someone when you're with someone who's actually narcissistic. So in this case, there might be some elements of narcissism, but I'm not really sure about the overall aspect of the person's spouse. This one, again, from narcissistic parents. Someone saying, "Is my mom a narcissist? Our relationship has really taken turmoil the last few years. I have no idea what's wrong with her, but something's definitely off. I see posts on here just describing the signs of narcissist, but my mom isn't the type that will go do grand gestures or go above and beyond to make herself look good. I feel like she's much more subtle. She's just been driving me crazy, and I'd like some guidance. That's why I'm here. I'd like to know if she's a narcissist or if there's just something else wrong. She puts most pressure on me to help me around the house and to lets my brother get off um, free doing nothing. She gets into arguments with me far more often, and I feel like he's her favorite. She'll only ask me for help with chores. For example, yesterday on Christmas, she's only asked me to do all of this cleaning as he was laying on the couch watching TV. She also never asked him to walk the dog. I end up doing it twice a day, every day. When I used to be in high school, she would threaten to not drive me to school if we got into an argument. She would take the bus, despite me not even being signed up for the bus. She never really acted like a parent from when I was 13 to about 20. She resorted to acting like a literal teenager, smoking marijuana, drinking, not taking anything seriously, just doesn't act like an adult. Both an old friend of mine and a boyfriend have both said this about her as well. She doesn't let me shut the door when my boyfriend comes over. I get no privacy. The only time it's acceptable is after a shower. If I shut it any other time, she would start asking what I was doing. Privacy isn't a norm in this house. She buys a coffee and a pack of cigarettes every day. She does this, yet couldn't afford to get me anything for Christmas. I would have been satisfied with a box of candy from the Dollar Tree. She ruins holidays because she thinks they suck. Just because she's miserable, she takes it out on others by abandoning all responsibilities. She said we have this huge, nice dinner for Christmas, and then she said she didn't feel like cooking, so I made the whole thing. 2 years ago on Christmas, she did the same thing, refused to cook after we bought everything and slept all day. She recently made a new threat saying she's not going to buy me a car when we sell our house and have some extra money, despite promising me several times that she would buy me one. She says she can't cut out daily coffee and cigarettes because she's not meant for the poor lifestyle. Same thing when she spent $300 on a credit card for her own birthday gift from Nordstrom. She says she needs to live luxuriously despite being broke. She's very passive aggressive. When my boyfriend is over, we're not supposed to go into my room for a long time, even if the door is open. She'll call me saying, "What are you doing? Are you going to come to the living room?" She'll also get angry if my boyfriend stays over when she needs to shower in the morning. No communication whatsoever. She loves to ask, "What are you doing?" in a condescending tone. I'll be washing my face in the bathroom while my boyfriend sits in my room waiting for me. She'll say, like, "What are you doing?" She refuses to do anything by herself, even at the age of 60. She can't take the dog out by herself. Um, she can't even do the DoorDash alone. She makes me or my brother go with her. She guilt trips me. She yelled at me for taking 2 showers in one day. She's estranged from every single member of both sides. She isn't with my dad anymore either. All right. Well, that's pretty. That's a lot. That's a mouthful there for sure. Now, I don't know if this mother's a narcissist. There's something going on for sure. I'm getting the fact that there's like, hey, Beagle Mama, how's it going? Good to see you. Um, please react to Foodie again. Oh, well, she's a disaster, right? What am I going to say? She's a disaster. Um, it's kind of a tragedy because Foodie Beauty is. I mean, like I mentioned this before, like she's ultimately there's sociopathic aspects, right? And you get into antisocial personality and narcissism when we talk about Foodie Beauty, and she's living the tragedy that we all know it is and was at the time. So what we see with someone like Foodie is that you're going to see a general decline in physical health and also in finances. Still latching on to this Salah person, and really, it's just out of sheer desperation, right? Getting an animal that she's the supposed to be able to protect and to feed and to take care of, yet yet she is begging for money to help do all of those things, and then on top of that, there's a contradiction about like going out at Christmas to kind of be this virtuous person who gives money or to assist the homeless. Like, how backwards is that? She's ultimately a welfare person. She is. not doing well. She cannot be productive. She's still under the delusion that what she does is like an actual job or something like that. With clicking record, when all she does is lay down on her couch. That's it's horrible. Yeah, you're saying she's back in Canada. You probably know that she's in the process of erasing herself. Yeah, she's I know she's back in Canada, and I wish all the best for people in general, but at the same time, would like to see consequences for people when they behave a certain way, especially in an antisocial way. Again, she's LARPing on our religion. Not only that, the religion that she's LARPing in is the religion that's most known for antisocial behavior. Do you know that most people who do reverts in prison. And if you're following, I mean, if you know anything about personality in prison populations, antisocial personality disorder is probably the most prevalent personality disorder in the prison population. And so it's super interesting to know that when someone quote unquote converts or reverts, the religion that they revert to is Islam. And so it's quite fascinating, and that people that are antisocial convert to something that a specific religion that is also itself known for extreme acts of violence. And so to me, it plays hand in hand when you see someone like Foodie Beauty who reverts or converts to Islam is just totally in line with what we know about antisocial behavior. That there's no ethic, right? It's an anti-ethic. It's the absolute opposite of living a productive, a happy life, right? It's the opposite of Western ethics, essentially. And you're seeing large happen big time now in the world. So with there's a lot of backlash happening now with regard to that. But the most important thing, I don't want to talk about Islam. The most important takeaway is that if someone is antisocial and they're behaving badly, that what they see as a good thing is something that a lot of people don't think is a good thing. And you'll find that with all of her decisions as well. So anyway, Hound Lover 870, formerly Beagle Mama, thanks for checking in here. I appreciate it. If you could like this stream, I just want to, and everyone listening now, I just want you to know I am available. This is being streamed on YouTube right now. It's being streamed on Rumble, and it's also being streamed on Twitch. So if you want to take a second and actually follow me on all of those platforms, I'd really appreciate it. Right. Yeah. So yeah, you're saying, and this is, with regard to everybody, working provides stability and structure, and that's what she really needs. And when you're younger, when you're going through those growing pains and you don't know what's happening, you're trying to find some way of life that suits you. People will tell you to get a job. People will tell you to make money. You got to do that. And when you're an antisocial person, you actually don't want to hear that stuff. You really don't want to hear it because you just it's the opposite of what you want to hear. You want to hear life is do whatever you want to do. You want to hear you're free to do whatever you want. You want to hear wake up when you want. You want to hear eat whatever you want. If you want to do um, drugs and alcohol, you want to hear people want to hear that whatever it is they want to do, they want to hear someone tell them that that's the right thing to do. But once you get through that state, and again, if you saw a graph of antisocial behavior, you'd see that it peaks around 18, 19 years old. So you'll find from 12 years old up to 18, you'll find this like peak of people behaving badly, essentially testing the waters out in society. Ultimately, you come down off of that and you realize that you've got to make some choices. And so Hound Lover here is saying that working provides stability and structure, and that's what she really needs. And then we were just talking about someone, and yeah, absolutely, all people need to kind of be productive in some kind of way. You need to make money, and you need to provide for yourself. And if you have a family, maybe you want to contribute towards that too. But life is not this dream existence where this fairy tale kind of existence. You've got to work hard usually for the things that you get in life. You can't just sit around and get paychecks for nothing. You're right. And we talked about this before, like in the age of the internet, we are it's pretty wild that a lot of people who would otherwise be on welfare, actually they click record on and they on their platform, and they can make money that way. So it's super fascinating because it's the carnival kind of effect in a sense where there were people, a long time ago who could not be productive, usually due to some physical or mental ailment they possessed, and they were not able to be contributing members of society. And so, with all of these platforms now, where people can actually just be in possession of a camera, and people would like to see the dysfunction. And it's just like it's a little clinical setting essentially where people get to like scratch their head at the oddities that they see all the time. And so because it's super fascinating. And so it's a carnival essentially. And people like seeing the oddities, and they want to pay to see the freak show. And so, people with personality disorders, these platforms provide a super easy way for them to make money. But it's not really a job. Okay. A job means there's a specific obligation and a specific responsibility, and you sustain a penalty by not adhering to that responsibility. When someone just clicks record and then lives their life, it's just like it's the Truman Show. Essentially, there's no one's trying to do something. They just exist because the camera's rolling. And so people like this, they're it's such a horrible existence. Really, if you think about it, imagine waking up all day and you're really, you don't have any revenue coming in, but for you to make revenue, you know that you can just click record on your camera and just go like live your crazy little ridiculous absurd life, and you'll end up getting some money. But there's no satisfaction because you're in this little hell of that you've just created, that you're just a welfare case with a video camera in the room. You're not actually doing a thing that is productive. Now, a lot of people like to react to these people that do this, and some of the subjects of these kind of channels, they don't like people reacting to them because they don't like people being critical of them. But the truth is that the reactors do 10 times more work commenting on the welfare case or the YouTube welfare program people, and because they are offering insight and observations to some act of nature that's just being sitting there being under a microscope. So just because you have some level of dysfunction and you've clicked record on a camera, and you sometimes make money, don't feel so proud about that. Don't feel so awesome that you're doing a thing that is awesome. What is awesome is that someone is actually taking the garbage that you're doing and being able to offer some kind of structure around that people understand and then that can relate to. I think you need to understand, if you're in that situation, that really it's a carnival. You are the center of a carnival exhibit at the end of the day, and people are paying to see that ridiculousness ultimately. So anyway, good to chat with you, Beagle Mama, and I'm going to check out another post here. But with this regard to this poster here, questioning whether the mom's narcissistic, there's not a lot of income going on in this family. The mom's 60 years old, doing DoorDash, super critical of the daughter. So there's just some like I think there's some controlling aspects going on. If the daughter wants to do something or be free herself and be more in control, I would recommend like getting out of that situation and moving out. And that way you won't be under the mom's thumb. I think the longer you're in that situation, it's probably time for you to move out in the next couple of years anyway. But as long as you're in the house, the mom can say can tell you what to do essentially. So also, I just want to point out that the fact that if you're still living at home and your boyfriend's there with you, if your mom's a single mom and you're all that she has, then there could be some resentment on the fear on behalf of the mother because maybe she doesn't want you to leave. Maybe she actually is afraid that you'll leave, and that might impact how she treats the your partner as well. And so a little bit of an odd dynamic there, and obviously she's not treating you super well, and she's not treating you well at Christmas, and she's not spending money on you. For even the most basic things like Christmas, which we would kind of expect that she maybe would do some little things like that. Then again, I don't think money is very available there in your situation. All right, let's continue the Reddit doom scroll. All right. All right. All right. This is narcissistic personality disorder subreddit. All right, let's check it out. Narcissist on narcissist relationships running ruining holidays. My dad is a narcissist psychopath like me. Okay, that's pretty strong. Everyone thinks they're a psychopath these days because I think it's cool, but of a different type. Not to sound like a Scrooge, but I've never particularly enjoyed the festive season because of the arguing, passive aggressive behaviors I grew up with, the violence, as well as my dad's pity plays about how expensive Christmas is, and the love bombing, followed by having my stuff confiscated. This was in my childhood up until my 11th Christmas when dad got arrested. Christmas is just my mother, who's not a narcissistic, but she has some narcissistic tendencies and some depression throughout my teenage and university years was less bad, but not that great either. Now, I've slowly grown to like Christmas, especially now as a young man, that I celebrate Christmas with my lovely fiance, my friends, her friends, and my cats, etc., people that matter to me. But I do still have that underlying unease whenever Christmas and New Year's comes due to my childhood traumas. So I was wondering if anyone else has similar stories, has any advice on how to make these thoughts go away. I can temporarily halt them through my hobbies and my therapeutic exercises, but I was hoping for a permanent solution if such a solution exists. As they say in Home Alone, Merry Christmas, you filthy animals, and Happy New Year. So, I mean, I don't really get much of this kind of behavior. The person who wrote this post did not actually communicate what's really going on here. Just says that yeah, just that he's more mindful during the Christmas time about Christmas. And so, I don't there's no real indication about any narcissistic things going on in this story, really. And, except for the pity plays about how expensive Christmas was, there's nothing, to say that this person is doing anything off base. So, yeah, not enough to go on, unfortunately, with this post. So we'll continue on. All right, this one, is from the toxic relationships subreddit. All right. So this person writes that they are half in and half out and struggling. So the poster is a 36-year-old male who feels like he's been trapped in an abusive relationship with his almost ex of 27 years old for just over a year. I am really struggling to come to terms with the situation at present, and I know what I need and should do, but I genuinely love her. I haven't seen her or communicated with her since the 2nd of December. So here we are. It's December 26th. So just over 3 weeks now. Realistically, I know that it's over, but the words haven't officially come out of either of our mouths. Just to give a rundown of the facts, she has, over the course of the last year, isolated me from virtually every friend I have. She's locked me in her home and refused to allow me to leave. And she has broken into my home whilst I have been out and ransacked my bedroom. She has forced her way into my home drunk at silly times of the night and physically assaulted me. Okay. One of these instances led to her calling the police and having me arrested for attacking her. You were released with no charges, but it's still hours in a cell and led to missed work. This has actually happened twice. The second time was me wanting some space after ruining her birthday, leaving me at home crying alone while she went out drinking and calling with her friends screaming abuse at me from the background. Apparently, me ignoring 15 or 16 of her calls at 1:30 in the morning is grounds for fabricating a crime to have me arrested. This was the beginning of this month. Despite all of this, I find myself wanting nothing more than to somehow have a nice life with her and missing her. I know this isn't possible, but right now my heart is a bit stronger than my logical brain. I'm by no means capable of diagnosing anything, but it truly feels like I'm dealing with an abusive and manipulative narcissist. I've tried to raise concerns or issues with her that doubtlessly crop up whenever you have two people involved in a committed relationship. But anything like that just turns into an argument where I'm wrong to even have any feelings on any of her actions or choices. And over this over time, this has seemingly eroded my ability to set any boundaries at all. So I completely know that I need to move on, but I'm still sitting here on Christmas Eve, just wishing that me and her could actually have a nice life we spoke about. And more than that, I'm concerned that I will never find someone who actually loves me and cares about me. And I'm genuinely questioning if I am in fact the problem. I don't know why I've decided to come on here, essentially blur all this shit out on the internet. But I'm feeling sad and lonely and a bit hopeless. And I was hoping just even typing all this might make me feel better, or if nothing else, just give me something to come back to in order to remind myself that ending it was in fact the only real choice. And yeah, so this person, I mean, they are in their feelings, and the age group here, I mean, this person is no one should be having to deal with this, but in addition to the slight age difference here, there's an 8-year age difference. This person is the 8 years the senior in this relationship. You should be not tolerating that shit. That's not acceptable. I'm not sure if these what kind of outbursts these are, but there's definitely some personality issue here. If there's like a push and pull, like if there's this elevation of the relationship and this intense love and um, intimacy and sexuality, and then there's like a devaluation of pushing away and get the hell out of here and you're useless and you're nothing. If that's what's going on, I mean, there could be something like a bipolar thing going on. But if there's otherwise, there's just some like erratic behavior, right? And this could be definitely something that there could be narcissism of a certain kind involved here for sure. At 27, if someone is doing that stuff, that's it's antisocial. Additional in addition to that, because outside of the fact that you're dating, I mean, someone's calling the police on you. That's kind of screwed up. And you already know this based on the fact you posted here. You're aware that you know you should leave. Uh, I would suggest that you take a look at your age and take a look at what your life's going to be in the next 10 years or 20 years. You have to make the decision now and make the right decision, and because you've wasted a year of your life already being with this person. And so you need to find someone, and time is ticking, and it's going to take you more time to find someone who's who's suitable for you. And so, and I realize now I'm reading this post, and there's this person with this cat, Pause J. And for some reason, whenever I'm actually reading these posts, I come across this person. So I think this might be a chronic poster. And if they're a chronic poster in these forums, might lead me to believe that these are like fictional posts if they're posting these things all the time. Anyway, just a note here. So but in general, this story, whether it's real or fiction or not, you should not be having to deal with this. And even if you were going to fix this, can you imagine you'd be having to deal with this for the next several years anyway? If someone's calling the police on you and framing you for a crime, I think you need to wake the hell up and get the hell out of there. Ultimately, this person, don't even worry about what name you call this. It could be narcissism with a sprinkle of antisocial behavior. You could be dealing with someone who's a slight psychopath with a sprinkle, a little bit soupçon of bipolar disorder. It doesn't matter. It's dysfunctional at the end of the day. And, you know, it's almost like beyond reason, this kind of thing. What are you supposed to do? Have a conversation with someone who should know better at 27, not to call the police on you? So it's to me that just kind of crosses the line for sure. And so I would say definitely get the hell out while you can, salvage the remaining time that you have left, and find someone who is closer to your own age, and live your best life afterwards. This person has something extremely wrong with them if at 27 years old they're behaving this way. What's gone on for the last decade of their life, if they're behaving like this now? Because usually we find some of these disorders and behaviors kind of like they don't entirely go away, but they just become a little bit more subdued, right? They're a little bit more. They're not so black and white. They just kind of fade a little bit. And if someone's 27 and still behaving this way, that's definitely a very big red flag. Let's see what else we can find. All right, here's this subreddit is called "Am I Overreacting?" The person says, "Am I overreacting for what I did after my boyfriend shared my photos?" So the poster is a 19-year-old female, and the boyfriend is 24-year-old male. They've been together for almost a year. Now, a while ago, I sent him some private photos. They were meant to stay between us, and he promised that they would. Now, recently, I found out he showed them to one of his work colleagues. I only realized because that person hinted they've seen them. I felt embarrassed and violated. All right, that's some. Um, it's not cool to do that. So when the poster confronted him, he brushed it off completely, and he said the colleague probably just accidentally saw them while he was looking through his phone or camera roll, and that it wasn't a big deal. He also said, "I've been with a lot of guys anyway, so it should be no big deal." So she's been with a lot of people, is what he's saying. So that really hurt. He didn't apologize or seem to understand why I was upset. I was angry and emotional and didn't really think things through. I ended up sending an anonymous email to his boss saying he was doing drugs. Oh shit. I didn't mention that the photos at all. I just wanted him to face some kind of consequence. His job investigated and he ended up getting fired. Oh shit. Now I feel sick with guilt. I never expected it to go that far. He's devastated, and even though he doesn't know it was me who sent the email, I can't stop thinking about it. I keep going back and forth because what he did crossed a huge boundary, but I also reacted out of anger. Did I overreact? Holy crap. Okay, so your boyfriend's 5 years older than you. Okay, not a super big deal, but it's true. Um, and so when you're 19 years old, you might not have your shit together, but when someone's 24, they're supposed to have their shit more together. Um, I mean, it's true that you kind of did a pretty extreme thing by calling his employer. You brought in a third party by and you lied. Your boyfriend didn't lie to you. At the same time, your boyfriend should not have shown those pictures to somebody else. Those absolutely were private, and they're not intended for anybody else. So it was a little immature on his part to do that, and it absolutely violated the trust that you're supposed to have together with each other. So that's not cool. Um, Also, I'm concerned about how he feels about you, right? Because you told me that you're telling us in the post that he said that you've been with a lot of guys anyway, so it should be no big deal. So it has me thinking that at 19, um, whatever your body count is, that it might be a little higher than he thinks it should be at that point. And it feels like maybe he's put you in a slut category ultimately, and he has no respect for you, is what I'm thinking. So because you've been with so many people, according to him, he put you as just being like public property, and he's just as though you had an OF page, and he's kind of sharing. He didn't have the respect for you to kind of not send them to you. So that's that. Now, this isn't the right way to think about this, but I guess he liked the way you looked, and he wanted to share that with somebody else. But that's not his behavior was still not acceptable. Absolutely should not have shared the pictures here. Um, but then you went ahead and you got his workplace involved, and so he you know he destroyed the bit of trust maybe that you thought that you had with each other. At the same time, you kind of got his workplace involved and you got him fired. Did you overreact? You might have overreacted a little bit, but you should absolutely be upset and annoyed and consider not trusting him, maybe dumping him in the future. I don't think you should necessarily be together if he can't trust you. You can't trust each other on that level. So yeah, you need to have some serious conversations and consider whether or not you should be together. But in the meantime, I mean, I guess he's going to be busy looking for a job because he's absolutely out of luck there. And also, you're aware that he shared the pictures. Maybe you should confess that you actually are the one that got him fired. Maybe that would be a good place to start too. All right. If you're watching this on Twitch right now, could you make a comment in the chat? I just want to see if I can get the comment. Just say hello or something like that. And to everyone else watching, just want to remind you that I am streaming live on Rumble, on YouTube, and on Twitch. So if you want to follow me there, that would be kind of cool. And that we could, if you like these kinds of conversation, I hope to increase the audience to get more people to kind of interact. We could check out the crazy world of Reddit and some of the wacky stuff that's going on there. So let's continue this. And again, if you're just new here, I'm following a stream. I'm following this is my feed on Reddit, and I follow a bunch of feeds, usually dealing with relationships, personality, antisocial personality disorder, narcissism, psychopaths, that kind of thing. So things that kind of where people come together, and you can see some kind of dysfunction, and we can end up talking about the dysfunction that's taking place. So again, a lot of Christmas stuff, right? All right, let's check this out here. I mentioned the Christmas thing in the beginning, so let's check it out. All right, am I the asshole here? This is the subreddit for Am I the Asshole? My fiance is furious at me for telling my family to start eating Christmas breakfast without her. All right. So am I the asshole? Okay. So every year we have a family Christmas breakfast as part of our celebration. A lot of people wake up on Christmas Day and they what they do is maybe they have a nice breakfast, and what they do is they ease into opening gifts, and that's my Christmas is kind of like that anyway. And so a lot of people do that. You get to like eat and enjoy some tasty food while still going over the breakfast. It's really a kind of it's enjoyable thing. Everyone is excited for Christmas Day, and you get to enjoy some of the tasty treats that are going on. So this person every year they have a family Christmas breakfast as part of the celebration, and this year I was supposed to start at 11 a.m. My partner was aware of what time it was planned for, but was running almost 2 hours late. I told my family to go ahead and eat as they spent the morning preparing and cooking everything. And I said I would eat with my partner when she arrived. However, now I'm completely in the doghouse for excluding her from breakfast, and that I'm an asshole for inviting her if they weren't even going to wait. My opinion is that it's unfair to punish everyone for one person's poor time management, but I'm curious if I'm the jerk here or the logical one. All right, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. You're not the jerk at all, right? So this was planned for 11. 11 is already a late breakfast. Some people do like to sleep in, especially if you're a little bit older and you have to sleep in and just enjoy the time, relax, get to be just simmer into the day, and then wake up and then start eating really late breakfast like this seems to be. And so in this case, it was organized for 11 o'clock, and the person was running 2 hours late. And that's not cool. And actually, it doesn't even matter what the reason was, unless they were like at the hospital or something. But if you've got a group of people and they're supposed to eat at 11 and it's already 2 hours late, I guess that's like 1 o'clock. Then absolutely, there's no, you shouldn't. That's extreme. Like the days, the morning part is over. You're starting to look down the barrel of Christmas dinner at that point. So people should already have absolutely opened their gifts and eaten breakfast by that point. So I think the person is overreacting. So your partner, your fiance, is overreacting, and I don't think that's a big deal at all. They should understand that if you're going to arrive at like 1 p.m. versus 11 p.m., yeah, then that was it. I think they would be a little bit self-centered by requesting that they're in that they're even requesting that you wait. All right, so let's check out some more here. All right, this is a subreddit called Dysfunctional Family. And the poster here says, brother is always playing the victim. So I have a brother that always has a victim mentality. He expected my mom to sign him up for his college classes, ended up dropping out, and still blames our mom for it. She lost his passport that I'm pretty sure was expired. And even though he got a new one, still blames her for losing it. He also blames her for not making his doctor and dentist appointments like he wasn't almost 26 years old. My stepdad has tried to get him on at his job so he can work his way up and also so he can get benefits. But again, it's always, well, I don't want to work that job, and whatever happens, happens. His very first car that my mom got for him stopped working because he never got the oil changed on it after we brought it up multiple times. And when he went to get another car, he couldn't afford it. Mind you, he was still living with our parents and not paying bills and not in school. This second car was was old, so it continued to have issues. and then handed down my old car that my parents gave to me to him, and have brought it up that he needs an oil change. But then again, he does says he doesn't drive it once, so I guess he didn't do it. And I've gotten to my limit with him because he's always just so miserable to be around. And when you don't want to help him, he gets mad. I gave him the long log onto my streaming platforms, but he asked for my Sam's Club login, and I didn't want to give it to him because my credit card is linked to the account. But for some reason, the additional account you can link to, it refuses to work. Anyway, he called me a stingy for not letting him use it when he was never offered to pay, has never offered to pay me back for any of these services. I was being nice. He even tried to act like all my Christmas gifts these past couple of years have been terrible. I just get him a gift card, t-shirt, and some candy. Yeah, it's not like I get anything in return. I told my family I'm done playing these games with him and that we all need to step back because he doesn't even want to help himself. All right, so yeah, so this is one of those families where it's like it's called like failure to fly. So the person is not really succeeding right now, and they're at a very dangerous point in their life right now. They're not doing the things that they need to do to be a success and to be actually independent in their own life. So uh, this person, it seems that they've adapted an approach to life that has been accepted by everyone else in the household, right? So it's doesn't look well for this person if they don't make some changes like really soon in their life. So I know a lot of people they can be older and still living with their parents, and that could be tough out there. But the reality is, if you are having a tough time out there and you do live with your parents, then your behavior should match your situation, and you should be humble about it, and you should be aware of who's paying your bills, and you should be aware of who's letting you live that life, right? Because normally when you're on your own, there's not really much forgiveness. It's brutal and tough, and you're living in the wild of your society, and you it's very serious. It's not a joke. You don't have the opportunity to just be so flippant about where money comes from or about where your responsibilities should be. So for some reason in this house, obviously it was at some point the parents got divorced and now this person finds themselves in this situation unemployed. But you've got a stepfather who's trying to get this person a job, but the person is not at all as serious as they should be about what they're doing. And so there's some very serious concerns I have going forward here with this person in their life. Now the poster is seems to be aware of the situation. They seem to have their shit together and they are doing what they need to do, and they are, I guess, trying to tolerate this person, the brother in this case, and they're living. So they're, I think they're a little bit kind of different people. One person is kind of a little bit more responsible, and one person is kind of just, you know, just kind of like surviving. I wouldn't say even living. So there's a weird dynamic going on in this house. The actual parents are not probably not saying the right things and doing the right things. I think if someone is 26, there should be pressure on the person to get an income and to move out. That pressure should always be there, and there should be time frames involved in terms of setting goals for that expectation so that it takes place. There should be a goal for within the next 4 months, you should be getting a job or some kind of income, and then the next 6 months, you should be moving out. Something like that should happen. Absolutely, because there's always in this kind of environment, it fosters a lot of negativity among the siblings because there's someone who's high and mighty, and they don't even have the real world facts to back them up. They're not doing anything to kind of pull their own weight, and so I think I would say the sister in this case feels kind of ripped off that this person is probably getting to live this way, and at the same time they get to be super judgmental about Christmas presents and stuff like that. So that's pretty fascinating, and it's dysfunctional, and it's unfortunate because every month this person stays in that kind of situation, it doesn't really bode well for them in terms of their life. So they have to find something really fast. Otherwise, the likelihood of them just kind of doing anything is pretty low, and the likelihood of them just staying at home doing living a essentially a welfare existence is really high. All right, I think this person is like offering some advice of some kind here. This is from the "Raised by Narcissists" subreddit, and the headline from the poster says, "Don't engage with a narcissist." So this is called a rant and venting. So a few weeks ago, I went low contact with my mother, and for context, I have she has her own. This person has their own family, and they live with their husband and kids, but not with the misery that they grew up in. So I guess they had a narcissistic mother, and it was quite horrible existence. So this Christmas, I decided to bring my youngest brother to celebrate with us, so he wouldn't spend it with my mother. She agreed easily. Whenever she can get rid of him, she does. Today, I dropped him back, and my sister told me something that honestly left me speechless and enraged. So my mother was speaking to her uncle and said, "I love my children, but differently. Even though daughter number three did so much to me, beating her, breaking her house, getting her BD to break her house, cursing her, wishing death on her, cursing her dead parents, reporting her to the police. I forgive her, but for what the daughter said, I will never forgive her, even on my deathbed. Even if she comes asking for forgiveness, I won't forgive it." For clarity, I never said what she was accusing me of. Yet this is a story that she's stuck with. It honestly enrages me because how are you stuck on a story I never said? Joke's on her because now I'm no contact and won't be going to her deathbed. Truthfully, she's the one who should be asking for forgiveness for the trauma I endured as a child. I will only ever ask for forgiveness from God, not from the witch. I remember telling my therapist that the only thing stopping me from going no contact was the thought that one day she'd be old and alone with no one to help her. And to after today, F that. She deserves whatever's coming her way. They want control, narratives, and victims. Her and her minions can create narrative, whatever narrative they want about me. Enjoy yourselves out. I choose peace, family, and breaking the cycle. So what's interesting is when you're younger, you might have an inkling that your parents have some kind of personality disorder, and you might not. Maybe you do decide they have a personality disorder. What's truly sad though, and what's truly outrageous is when you see someone who's actually in their like 60s and 70s and 80s or older, and they still have the personality disorder. And so, based in this scenario here, there's someone who actually seems that seems like they carry on with some of the manipulation of others. If we're to agree with this post, and so what you see is you see someone who's just like really old and kind of still lying about stuff and looking for there's pity plays and there's manipulation and that kind of thing. And the older a person gets, generally they don't have as much power unless it's like financial. So because everyone else is more vibrant and alive and living their lives and doing their own thing, usually in a more functional kind of way. But when you're dealing with a narcissist, just imagine someone who's maybe living by themselves in a house or some kind of um, unit. Maybe they're in like old age, like a long-term care or a retirement home or something like that. And there's still a person in a room, and they actually still have this like personality disorder with them. So they can create a lot of fictional narratives and manipulation with the people that they surround themselves with. Any family that they still talk to, any other people when they come to visit, they could be saying all kinds of bullshit, and no one knows what the truth is. But they're doing it, and it's still manipulative, and it still causes a lot of problems within the household. And so, in this case, you have a daughter who's kind of well aware of it and not going to tolerate it anymore, and seems pretty smart. So her reaction was to go no contact and to stay no contact. I guess she was kind of doing low contact, but now she's just cut off completely to do no contact. So that's what you got to do when you're dealing with a narcissist. It's learn it early and learn it completely. So when you're dealing with a narcissist, get the hell out of the way and do not contact. No contact if you can do it. It's not worth it. It's painful. It will kill you. It ruins relationships. It will ruin you mentally. You'll lose sleep. It will just cause you to be unhealthy. So stay away from it if you can. And even if it's your family, unfortunately, that's how it has to be. So let's check it out here. We got some other crazy Reddits to check out. It's Christmas, so everyone's all emotional, coming off all of those interactions which are dysfunctional. All right, still going. We have Interesting. This one is from a subreddit called Narcissistic Parents. So, apologies or how my parents are incapable of saying the words "I'm sorry." And so, some people are they just can't do it. And I think that that especially when it comes to narcissists, that puts them in a down position, right? Now, most well-reasoned people are can say I'm sorry because there's no fear of being put down a peg or two, or having this power play between each other. But when you have a narcissistic parent, you need to have how do you resolve those arguments? How do you when someone makes a mistake, someone's got to say I'm sorry if you're going to move forward. But when you're dealing with people in your family who are narcissistic, you can't do it. You resolve it differently. You just stop talking about it and then you move on to the next scenario. So this person says, this phenomenon started with my brother, but has spread to my father, which seems kind of weird because if someone was narcissistic, you think it would start with the father and then, sorry, start with my mother, but has spread to my father. Okay, I misread that. A bit of a background. Both my parents, with my mother firmly as ringleader, are melodramatic narcissists who blow every problem out of proportion and put themselves front and center. I'll put an example of this at the end. They also attempt to control me through money and emotional blackmail. This has put a strain on our already difficult relationship. I cannot talk in confidence to them because I cannot predict their reaction, and that is massively stressful. One thing I was going to say that's like, it's stressful, right? Like, you have post-traumatic stress after dealing with this shit. But one thing that I have noticed is that when they do eventually calm down and have it pointed out to them, they cannot say the words, "I'm sorry." They used to say sorry with a "but" on the end, just justifying their actions, but now they both, say apologies. I might so they just say apologies. There's no "I" there, right? Like, the word "I" there is a very important word in the narcissist's, language because is identifying, right? It's it's a word that gives responsibility. When you say "I" and you finish it with something, it denotes some kind of responsibility. So you put that "I apologize," it's kind of the every finger points to yourself, and you need to have the fortitude and the strength and intelligence to kind of, um, to let it go and to own up to it if you're apologizing for a wrongdoing. But, I guess narcissists have a hard time doing that. So the poster goes on to say that I might be completely paranoid about this, but it feels like it's a coordinated action, a word they've managed to disassociate from the act of apologizing while still sounding like they are. To me, apologies is what you say when something is outside of your control, like a train announcement. Apologies for the delay. That's right. That's more of it's kind of a communal thing, right? Which is detached from responsibilities, or it's kind of like we apologize for the delay, or the corporation apologizes for the delay. So recently I had to take a break from them and everyone as I've been suffering from some extreme anxiety which they know about. I told them I was switching my phone off for a few days and then just switched it off. I decided to extend this break for another couple of days with the intention that I'd switch it back on just before Christmas. Obviously annoyed that I had slighted them, they started texting me an unusually large amount. That was to justify their next action to send me an emergency police and ambulance response to my home. The police officer that spoke to me said they hadn't received the message from me that I was going off grid for a few days, meaning either they deleted it or just omitted it from the police report, as there's no way the police would react like that otherwise. But as someone who suffers from anxiety, having sirens and flashing lights coming right up to my front door was the very last thing that I needed. I also live in a small neighborhood, so everyone outside their house wondering what the hell was going on. I haven't gone outside for days, but I got the message loud and clear. If they suspect I'm cutting them out, they will overreact and make my life hell. So I switched my phone back on, saw all the texts they both sent, which, as I say, were uncharacteristic, and replied explaining how much distress this whole incident had caused me, not to mention the waste of local emergency services. And my parents live in a different part of my country, so they can't drop by. But there are other ways they could have gotten in touch with me. They said apologies. But when I put forward my view that apologies isn't an apology, they said apologies. I was I was talking to an automated message. How do I get them to take accountability? So yeah, there's like a definitely a weird dynamic here with this family. You know, it just reminds me a little bit of like histrionic kind of personalities where people are like everything is like an extreme thing one way or another. It's a dramatic kind of cluster, and they are definitely on the same page and have the same. same kind of thing going on. I'm not sure if like there's an obsessive thing going on with them, but did they call the police out of care and concern for you, or did they? And was it just like over dramatic care and concern, or what was really going on with that? Or did they just want to create a very serious, overblown situation? In the beginning, you say they blow every problem out of proportion. So that is like there's an overreaction there, right? Which I guess could be, I guess, narcissistic. But yeah, so just I think we need more information. They seem to definitely be acting together, and I think it's funny that you kind of wanted to go no contact for a few days to actually stay away from like the dysfunction, and it actually did was worse for you. They're just kind of weird. At the same time, they're not very intimate with you in terms of their words, in terms of their ability to say I'm sorry. So that's kind of disturbing on some kind of level. So yet they show a very strong sense, supposedly, of care and concern for you, and potentially high level of love for you because they're concerned. Yet then they call the police for something like that, but they won't listen to those words. So yeah, it's hard to say. I have no idea. It seems kind of odd. There's definitely getting a vibe here that's super like an odd dynamic as well. I know that narcissists do have an inability to say that they're sorry. And so that's kind of, but there's like a few other things. So I'm getting like just a different vibe. I'm getting like an obsessive compulsive vibe out of this for some reason. I'm getting like hoarding house kind of vibes for some reason. Anyway, we'll uh we'll see what's up here. So that's cool. Yeah. It would be nice if someone said, I'm sorry. And then you're able to have an explicit discussion about why. And everyone takes responsibility and we all move forward, but that's just not the case. Let's check out some more posts here. Unfortunately, like a lot of the posters in on Reddit, they have to be like some of them tend to be quite young as well, and so I try to like find the posts that are not explicitly due to like inexperience and immaturity because it just you're dealing with someone who's just very young and just not experienced enough to be aware of the situation that they're going through here. Like you have to be if you're in your 20s, at least you've got some kind of thing going on. You have some experience. You should know some of the stuff that's going on about what your expectations are about yourself and your expectation of others. All right, I'm just gonna do a search here for a second. Dun, 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 dun. Right. Right. So yeah. So okay. So this person, this is a narcissism subreddit, and the actual the post is that the person says, "I don't have a diagnosis yet regarding narcissistic personality disorder, but I'm looking for one." You're looking to be diagnosed with a personality disorder. I would say you should be happy to not to avoid getting that diagnosis because it would be a horrible thing for you to actually be diagnosed with this. Or at least if you're unless you mean you want them to rule out that personality disorder. So the poster's a female of 20 years old. Realized that I have a very strong moral perfectionism that borders on what a rich conservative mother expects. I grew up as an only child, initially surrounded by my whole family, with all the attention and gifts, but with a lot of emotional neglect, almost like abandonment. In short, the lack of socialization and middle upper class upbringing made me think high expectations is the norm. So it's never enough for me, not for myself, not for my goals, not for anything. I tend to embarrass people for not meeting my standards. It's stupid, I know, but I'm afraid of mediocrity, of not succeeding. And why shouldn't I want to be perfect, really? I realize that I'm not actually interested in being morally perfect and that I don't feel like being a good person when I want to. I just do it out of a moral shame and I don't know what to do or how to feel about it. Wow. Okay. That's some interesting confession there. All right, so the couple things going on here. Um, I think that someone wanting success and saying that they don't like mediocrity, that is definitely a narcissistic thing as well. Also, people might not be aware of this, but people that are obsessive compulsive, they they also are perfectionists in a lot of the ways. They're perfectionists to such an extent that things go undone because they're always making perfect lists or having strategies to do the thing perfectly and to do something a specific way to meet their standards. And then, but they almost always come up short, or they judge others by those standards as well. They tend to kind of want to. They'll just do everything themselves just because they want to get it done their way, so to speak. A narcissist, they have these delusions of grandiosity and of, being successful, being rich, being having everything being so amazing. But what's interesting is this poster goes on to say that they say, I'm really not interested in being morally perfect and that I don't feel like being a good person when I want to. I just do it out of moral shame. So this speaks to, I guess, how they were raised. So it has nothing to do with their personality. They're confessing here that it has nothing to do with who they really are. If they're doing it out of some kind of moral shame, that means their behavior is out of someone else's values and someone else's beliefs. And so that is really, I think, at the root of the problem here. And so if you ask the question, whose morality is this person operating? Whose morality is the basis of this person's means of operating? You'll find out the issue here. And so I would say you'll find a parent that is super demanding. And as this person said in the early paragraphs, she says, I grew up as an only child, initially surrounded by my whole family with all the attention and gifts, but with a lot of emotional neglect. And so I would guess that, that one of the parents has some kind of narcissism before I would. So if I was having a conversation with this person, I want to get really in on what's going on in the family. I would before this person seems to have actually a lot of insights, I would say, and they because they're acting out of moral shame based on an obligation to some group or some other person in their household. So I would say mother or father is likely a narcissist in this case, and they don't actually care about being perfect or being a good person. They're towing the line of some other personality inside that household. So that's uh, that's what I would say in this kind of case. So yeah, it's a tough situation. I think that the answer is right there for this person. They're not sure how to deal with it, and I imagine if they have some conversations with their therapist, they'll probably find some answers really quick. So I just want to take time to say hello to everyone again. I want to say Merry Christmas, Happy Boxing Day to everybody. Hope you had a fantastic couple of days. I hope today continues that in that way. If you haven't already, please follow me on YouTube, follow me on Twitch, and follow me on Rumble. You can find me there. If you haven't already, please give me a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it. Leave a comment if there's some specific Reddit you'd like me to get into or something. I'd be happy to check it out. Just like talking about human relationships, and some would tend to be dysfunctional in a lot of ways. Personality disorders are kind of fun to have a chat over, and the reason why is because they affect all of us. If you have more than 6 or 7 people in your realm, you likely have at least one person with some kind of personality disorder or dysfunction. So if you work at a job that has more than 6 or 7 people, you probably have someone that's dysfunctional or pathological in some kind of sense. And so you have friends, family, colleagues. If you have more than a half dozen people, you're likely dealing with somebody who has some level of pathology in terms of a personality extreme. And we all have people in our lives that have subclinical levels of different pathologies. Most of us can just survive the holidays. Most of us can live our lives, have our jobs with very minimal kind of impact with some of these people. But when you do find yourself in a situation with people who have some kind of dysfunction or personality disorder, if they're narcissistic or something like that, it can have a huge impact. It can ruin your day. It could ruin your life. It can ruin your career, and it could, ruin your family situation that we might have to actually leave. So it's important for me, I think, to become aware of these things, and when you see them and to talk about them. And it's only through that kind of conversation that you can kind of learn coping mechanisms, or like save yourself years and years of painful interactions, and save your life ultimately, and live the best life that you could live. So that being said, let's go on and check this one out. Again, I'm seeing a post here from the same person, and this person must post a whole bunch of fictional accounts. All right. Again, I don't know what this post is, but I joined this group yesterday. It's called the subreddit's called Relationship Anarchy, and this poster is entitled, this one, Holiday Dumpster Fire. So let's see what's going on here. I just need to get this off my chest. This has been a brutal Christmas. I look back and I remember the decade and a half I spent celebrating a homey and eclectic combination of Yule, Hanukkah, and Christmas with my now 22-year-old daughter and my tight knit queer family and family. I remember the last few years I've spent holding what's left of that fractured family during the holidays with my now grown daughter. Finding gratitude and a new kind of joy, even if it's been derided at times, my community in celebrating the holidays in a more traditional, hetero appearing configuration that includes my male partner and my beloved young stepdaughter. It's far too much to explain in a Reddit post. I can't explain all the back to back deaths. I can't explain the way my core grown up family, the family I've spent every holiday and everyone's birthday and had monthly potlucks with and annual camping trips with and lived collectively with and raised my child with my whole adult life. How this family was completely shattered by a series of conflicts, a completely unexpected and horrifying suicide of someone at the heart of our circle, an unspeakable family secret, and further decimated by late in life addiction. I can't explain the immediate circumstances of this year really either. The epic, romantic, sometimes dramatic, and always intense 13-year history of my partner and me, or my immense love for my stepdaughter, who is newly 6, and the second child I always wanted. I love her more than I thought possible to love a child who is not my own blood. And as a teacher who fiercely loves my students, and an aunt and a mentor, I do know what it is to love children who are not my own. I love this child in a way that surpasses all that, a way that reaches my bones. I can't flesh out the mechanics of the non monogamy arrangement I had with my partner. I can say that he acted on it for years, freely and openly, occasionally crossing our agreements, which I met with grace and forgiveness. I was in a one sided relationship and unofficial one penis policy, and was okay with that because I'm pretty sexually monogamous in my old age. I understand his desire for novelty, except his hookups. I was appreciative of his honesty when he effed up an agreement, even if he shut down processing after one conversation each time. I know this man. I know and choose him. I was grateful that I could trust him not to F other women when things were hard between us, even if he flirted heavily. I was grateful that he honored me by not forming emotional connections with the other women he slept with. And I was happy that he understood and encouraged my deeper than normal relationships with my ex girlfriends and my queer family and friends. Most straight guys aren't into that. They don't want me to have long term custody arrangements, friendships that are elevated in importance like romance. He fostered those connections. His don't ask, don't tell policy around sleeping with men, immature, naive, homophobic, if we get down to it, but acceptable to me after giving it thought for years, because hookups aren't generally my thing, they're his thing. All right. I'm just going to skip down. All right. Seems like a lot going on here. Like some dysfunction. You're having a lot of non monogamous relationships and sex and STDs. I think that's what happens. A lot of people, they in philosophy, um, in philosophy, people are, they kind of romanticize the idea of having an open relationship and having multiple partners. And quite often, though, it ends up in a lot of pain, and it elevates your risk of having getting sexually transmitted diseases. So that's super risky. Sorry, I'm just trying to check out my Twitch feed because I'm trying to find out how to. Trying to find out how to block people on Twitch. But anyway, we'll check that out later. Let's go back to the dumpster fire that is the Reddit right now. Trying to find something good. Dun, dun, dun. All right, this is from a subreddit called Dysfunctional Family, and the person writes coping with the holidays after no contact. Hey, Jarella, how you doing? Did you just join now, Jarella, or you been on for a little bit? Just now. Okay. All right, let's check this out here. So, first of all, the poster says it's been 2 years of no contact, I guess, with somebody, and with, I guess, with their dysfunctional family, and they finally feel some calm and relief that they are gone. It's been my literal dream since I was a child. I tried everything to make it work and to be the best daughter they could have. But it was never enough, and the emotional abuse never stopped. When I developed an autoimmune disease some years ago, I was begging them to reduce the stress, but the opposite was the case, and I had no choice but to cancel my whole family, all of them, including my aunts and uncles. I felt very alone since I don't really have friends or social support either. And now during the holidays, the guilt comes back creeping in. It's not even that I miss being with someone on Christmas, it's more that I feel incredibly guilty. My mom keeps writing a rather shallow card every year, but there's no real effort to try to connect, really. Nevertheless, it just pains me, and I always feel like I need to explain once more to make them less sad, or I don't even know. Deep down, I know I have been trying all my life without success. My father is probably a covert narcissist, and this is why I feel like my mom is a victim, as well as I feel even more guilt. Also, how do you cope with people or colleagues asking why you won't spend the holidays with your family? I feel really ashamed to admit that I am alone. Well, actually, so this is it's fascinating, right? Because you want to you're dealing with like a social norm. Now, in a lot of ways, a lot of ways, like one of the aspects of antisocial personality behavior is like not abiding by social norms. But for the most part, that has to do with actually breaking laws, that kind of thing. So there's a typical social etiquette where it's most people will always stick around and hang out with their family, and they will. You have your family. It's rare, not totally rare, but it's most people kind of stick around with their family for better or for worse. They don't just pick up and go and estrange themselves from their families. It is not uncommon, but it's more common for people to stick through all the dysfunction and the pain, which maybe is kind of a little odd too in some ways. So what you're dealing with, I think, the poster is that you're dealing with the fact that I don't think you've resolved the fact that you've created your own um, your own path, right? That does not include your family. And you maybe you grew up in a family that was like a little dysfunctional, and you were like aware enough to say, "Hey, this is like completely abnormal. I don't want to have any part of this." And then because I'm not going to run into that wall again. I'm sick and tired of that. It's horrible. I'm not your punching bag, and I keep coming up against the same bit of dysfunction all of the time. And so you make the decision to go no contact. And, you know, you say in your post that you actually do feel calm and you do feel some relief. So I think you've prescribed the correct course of action for yourself, because you have a right to live a functional life, one that is devoid of any antisocial behavior, any dysfunctional kind of behavior. And if you're not thriving in your family, then that's okay. You don't owe anyone anything really. You owe it to yourself first to be the best you can be, happy and healthy in whatever circumstance that means. And so you've done actually a pretty amazing thing to think about it, that you are protecting yourself by doing that. And so I think you need to stop feeling like shame for that you about someone else's pain. So if some family if your family caused you to feel that way, and you're viewing it objectively, and you know what kind of means what normal is for you, and they're behaving in a way that is abnormal, and that didn't work for you, then you need to choose a way that is normal, and that works for you. Yeah. And so Jarella says sometimes people are forced to cut off family, and sometimes they are the one the family had to cut off. You never can know the whole story. So yeah, you don't. We have limited information here with this kind of Reddit post. But if we listen to the poster, I think you need to understand in a like philosophical sense what you've done, and you need to know that if you made the right decision, then it's okay for you to stand tall, and you made that decision in your own life. If you if you've made a decision that you regret, then you made the wrong decision if you're regretting it, and then you would have a reason to feel ashamed of that. So what happens in society is that you go around and people say, "Oh, what are you doing for the holidays?" And you just say, "Oh, I'm nothing. I'm staying home." And they say, "Well, aren't you going to hang out with your family?" And you're like, "No, I don't talk to my family." And then it just you kind of feel weird about it. But I would suggest, just if that's what you've done and it's making you happy, then own it. And then you don't get along with your family. I think you'll find as you get older that people are like, it's not unheard of for people to do that for the most part. So that it's less and less bothersome. But in terms of feeling shame, you feel shame because you're not doing something, that you didn't live up to someone else's expectations, whether that's your family or society. And I think you don't have to worry about that so much. I would say stop worrying about what other people's behavior and attitudes. But just know there are many people who stick in it for the long term, and they do it to their detriment. They are like in extreme pain. They lose sleep. They have horrible relationships, tremendous dysfunction, and it makes them feel unhealthy, and they keep they keep sticking with it. And you're not getting a prize for sticking with a dysfunctional relationship. No one's giving you a prize. The only thing that can happen is you resolve it or you're in pain. So yeah, but it's a kind of tragedy, right? Because you're supposed to be able to, when you're born into a family, it's supposed to be the perfect world. Everyone would be happy and get along, and and everything would be fine. Let's check out some more of these posts here. A lot of Christmas dysfunction happening. A lot of people are concerned about people waiting for them to eat on Christmas. I think people need to understand, when you're having these meals and there's other people involved, sometimes you can't wait, as long much beyond the point. You've got all kinds of things coming together with the timing of whether it's breakfast or like turkey dinner or ham dinner or something, and you've got 15 people in your house. No one's going to necessarily sit around and wait for you, and you shouldn't be annoyed at that necessarily. All right, raised by narcissists. Someone is like having to take a big step here and maybe um, block their siblings off. Let me see. Jarella says sometimes people are forced to cut off family, and sometimes they are the one. Oh yes, it's the same comment. All right, time to block my siblings. This is the first Christmas without both parents, and the second without the narcissist. I didn't officially cut my mom off until my birthday. Earlier in the year, I told her to respect my boundaries, to stop demanding I call her when I only feel comfortable texting. She left a voicemail calling me a coward, and I didn't text me again until my birthday. She wished me a blessed birthday when she knows I'm an atheist. It was just like her to give me birthday wishes and ignore the conflict instead of apologizing. That's when I blocked her. I had only one of my siblings blocked until today. That's because I know he was actively lying about me to my narcissistic dad and trying to make my treatment worse. Growing up and the last couple of years living in my parents' house really proved to me that he enjoyed causing me pain and mistreatment. I went through a pretty traumatic move a couple years ago, and my entire family knew that. I was kicked out. I had to scramble to transform my job out of state and transfer my job out of state and then move out of state. During this time, only my first block sibling contacted me to see if he could have the furniture in my room I left behind. The others would text me happy birthday, Christmas, but it seemed coordinated because the messages were sent minutes apart. I was going back and forth for a while about whether or not to block all of my siblings. I ended up thinking that they're also being abused, so I should give them time to reach out. Today, I got a text from one of my siblings that was very my mom coded. He sent, "May the birth of the one and only true God, Jesus Christ, bestow a blessing of grace and peace upon your household." I immediately blocked this person. I realized that none of them care. They're 30 years old and still living at home, and they've never had a deep thought in their lives. That's fine. If this is the life they want to live, I won't keep waiting for them to choose me while they choose evil every day. Anyways, I've been making the most of my holiday every year without my family, and it's more peaceful. Just seemed like a bunch of a little bit of a dysfunctional household here. Everyone has different like kind of beliefs. Some people are stepping on each other's beliefs and not respecting the boundaries of others. Again, you've got people who are in their 30s living at home still. So there's some maybe dysfunction there, if possibly. And yeah, so I would imagine there's not really much else to go on here, other than one person's going a little bit of difficulties trying to live their best life outside of the family home. But and I'm not getting huge narcissistic vibes because there's nothing really in the actual original post that comes across as a super narcissistic, just like some boundary breaking kind of stuff. Jarella says, I have a local friend whose mother is a tremendous narcissist, full narcissistic personality disorder. Her poor father took his own life. The mother just wore him down. NPDs, you just need to get away. You can't do anything. That's true. You've got to kind of, you got to get the hell out of there. And there's nothing that you can do really. I mean, people don't understand that a lot of these disorders, they're profound and within somebody, right? They're ingrained in every it's a pervasive pattern of behavior over a broad range of circumstances, and it definitely does not going to resolve on its own. It's likely not even going to resolve if someone seeks therapy. You just increase the likelihood that it will be resolved, but it's so hard because someone who's narcissistic, they have to actually gain a lot of insight into themselves, and they have to look at themselves apart from other people, and to be aware, to hold themselves accountable. And when you're narcissistic and you think that you're the best thing since sliced bread, you're not likely to you don't think there's anything wrong with you. You think everyone else is the problem, and that's a huge, huge deal. And the last couple of decades, would say narcissism is on the rise. A lot of people with social media, everyone's pointing a camera at themselves. It's all me, and about what I want, what I want, what I want, and self gratification. And social media and cell phones have been a giant mirror. People have just literally been staring at themselves for the last couple of decades, and just it's a essentially a super narcissistic activity. All right. Well, listen, I appreciate you all watching. It's been about 1 hour and 45 minutes. I'm just going to take a break and maybe come back later, maybe not. I appreciate you watching. If you haven't already, take a second to like this video, and secondly, go ahead and subscribe to my channel if you're already not subscribed. Again, I just want to let you know I am on Rumble, I am on YouTube, and I am on Twitch. So follow me there, and we'll hopefully try to maybe grow this audience a little bit more. Take care, everyone. Bye, Jarella. Take care, everyone. Bye for now.